everybody. I am Larissa Violet. Thank you for tuning in today. Today I have Tondra on. We're going to talk all things marriage and marriage game plan, essentially. I love the play on words too. So first, let's talk about being the chaplains, essentially, with your husband for the LA Chargers. I want to know all about that because I think that is so fascinating. And I'm not a sports, well, I do golf. But aside from that, I'm not a sports person, but my husband obviously is. And I didn't even know that sports teams had chaplains that do this kind of stuff with them.
Yes.
So let's start there. Introduce yourself. Thank you so much for being here.
Yes. Well, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here to share with women in your audience, your listeners, and just to spread the word to get marriage help out there. So with the Los Angeles Chargers, my husband and I lived in New York City for 10 years. We did marital support with the New York Jets and New York Giants while we were there. And we also planted a church on the Upper East Side of Manhattan.
Okay.
Through that ministry of everything that we were doing, we met Coach Anthony Lynn, who attended our church. And once he left, we didn't know he was leaving, but we were feeling like the Lord was, calling us to transition out of New York City, but we didn't know what it was. And so somehow we got reconnected with Coach Lynn. He was becoming the head coach for the Los Angeles Chargers, which we were like, no, it's the San Diego Chargers.
Yeah.
And so that's when the team was moving. He was going to lead that transition from San Diego to LA. And he was looking for chaplains. And the friend that reconnected us gave him our resume because they didn't know we knew each other. And then Coach Lynn looked at the resumes and he was like, George and Tondra Gregory, my pastors from New York City, if they're available, they have the job.
Yeah.
Like they're my pastors. And so that's how we ended up moving to California and moving to LA and started working with the Los Angeles Chargers.
Okay.
And yes, it's 32 NFL teams. All 32 have a chaplain in some form.
Okay.
My husband and I have always, done ministry together, and we've done marital support services. So we just did chaplaincy together with the Chargers.
And so when you're doing that, is that players? Is that players and spouses? Is that who do you do this for?
Yeah. So my husband works with the guys. So he works with the coaches, the players, also the front office staff. I help him with that because there's men and women with the front office staff. I do the coaches' wives and the players' wives and girlfriends, and then we do couples together. And so that's and there's a chapel service also every night before the game. So it's
wow.
It's like
I love
a full.
That. I love it.
It's the church. We created a church within the organization.
Do you feel like, I mean, now I don't want to go off topic, but I'm just curious. Do you feel like people are receptive and responsive to, not that it's forced or something, but are they receptive, I guess, to incorporating, I mean, it's essentially like that's their job, that's their career, right? Yeah. And then you're kind of incorporating God and the Bible and all of this into that. Are people receptive to that? Is it?
A lot of people are receptive. We don't just, we don't like put pressure on people, but we want to make things available because for 6 months, at least for the players and their families, 6 months out the year, this is their church. This is their community. Yeah. Coaches are even longer than that out the year. And so this is their church. So we don't force it on people, but we do try to care for people. So it's not just Bible, it's also relationship, giving a safe place, a community, because there's not a lot of people that when you live a high profile life, people that you can trust, that when you do need something, who can you go to that is a safe place and a trusted person. So it's also about building those relationships, creating safe relationships so they feel that they can come to us. Even if they don't partake of anything else, they know, like, if I need prayer, I need encouragement, or I need to process something with someone, here's here's a couple that we can sit down with if we need to. Yeah.
I love that there, because I mean, it's kind of in anything entertainment, obviously not just athletes, but I feel like there's such a stigma around them and men and women in relationships. And I don't know, I feel like a lot of people kind of assume the worst in those individuals. So I feel like it's really incredible that they have that resource as a safe place. Okay, so diving into the marriage game plan, obviously, is your book released in July.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Okay. And how did that come about? Were you seeing a need for it obviously based off of like the players, but also just in the community and churches and things? Were you seeing a need for, okay, husbands and wives need some sort of game plan.
Yeah.
And here are the holes that we're seeing. And talk to me about that and how the book got created.
Yes. Well, the book came about because of my own personal journey in my marriage, my husband and I's journey. And so even before we started working with professional couples or professional athlete couples, we had a marriage ministry, and it was birthed out of our own struggles in our marriage. When we first started out, we didn't have a game plan. We were in crisis mode. We were pregnant. And so we had to make some serious decisions about what we were going to do. Like, we have another life. We felt like kids. And when we look back at those pictures, we were kids, But starting off, we just didn't do a lot of game planning or how do we make marriage work. We were just trying to have a solution for a crisis that we were going through. And it was tough.
Yeah.
It was very hard. And we were struggling. And we always say we're a picture of God's grace, because we shouldn't even be here, like helping couples, consider experts, because we got it so wrong in the very beginning. But by the grace of God, we figured out how to make our marriage work. And immediately we were like, we got to help as many couples as we can.
Yeah.
Like, it's not something that you just know how to do. It's not something that love only is required. You have to learn how to fit together. You have to learn how to be married. So we've always had a burden for helping couples get a game plan. And then our first clients were supporting marital support services with the New York Jets, which led to helping out with the Giants as well.
And your background also is in counseling for a variety of things. Anxiety, depression, and many other things, right? Like kind of like typical what you would think about going to counseling for.
Yes, exactly. So yes, I'm a licensed mental health counselor. I'm licensed in the state of New York, and I was in private practice during our time in the city as well. And but once I felt like as I was working in that field, I felt like relationships were a big part of contributing to some of the mental distresses or, psychological distress that people were feeling. So I wanted to specialize in working with couples, and that's where I became a relationship coach. But I think the background that I've had in doing therapy and treating emotional and behavioral distress all comes together and comes into play working with couples as well. So
yeah, it's interesting because so I've been married to my husband and I have been married we've been together since 2013, but we've been married since 2021. So we were together for a while, and then we got we were a COVID couple, so our wedding kept getting pushed back. We're one of those. And now we have 3 babies. And so I feel like at each of those, there's so many different transition and stages and things, excuse me, that we've gone through over the course of that time. And it is a lot of fluctuations, I guess. And we did, through our church, before we got married, we did do some sort of planning and, kind of like, I don't want to use the term game plan, because it was more about just kind of like figuring out, okay, how do you handle this situation, or how do you handle this situation, or what are your thoughts on this and that, which is great, but it's very different than getting into it. And they can't prepare. I mean, you really can't prepare yourself for everything. I lost my job almost a month ago.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, a year ago on Friday, I lost my job.
Wow.
I had this big corporate job that I'd had forever, and I held a lot of the financial responsibility. And then all of a sudden, I lost my job, and now I make no money. And so it's
Yes.
like, okay, now do I be a stay-at-home mom? It's like
Right.
that. No one could prepare you for that, you know? Or I'm even thinking about when I was pregnant with my third baby, I was on bed rest for a lot of that pregnancy. No one can prepare you for that, and kind of the toll that will take on a marriage. And so I think there's a lot of these transitions that happen. And then similarly, to me, the secular worldview that you hear about now is a lot about self-love and self-happiness and focus on your happiness. And, you know, if it's not making you happy, you can kind of just leave it.
Right.
Whereas in a marriage, that's just not how it's going to thrive or, you know, be successful. And I think we also see a lot of these, you know, any like celebrity couple or something. It's like, oh, we just grew apart or what. And it's kind of like, okay, well, if there's many times I think where you feel like you've grown apart and you have to work out how to make it back together. And I hear this a lot. And one of the reasons why I was so excited to have you on is because I do have a lot of people that will write to me to say, I'm struggling with this with my husband, or we feel like we're in the roommate phase, or we, you know, we had the baby and now we're kind of like trying to figure out like, what does this mean and our different roles and all of that. And so does the Marriage Game Plan book, is it meant for couples to read together? Is it meant for individual? Like, do we read it individually and kind of come together? How does that work? And kind of like encompassing all that.
I feel like it works better and it's most effective for a couple to go through it together.
Okay.
Because it's not just a book that you read. It is a book that is very interactive. And there are, at the end of every chapter, there's the putting it into practice section. And what that entails are questions and couples activities for you to work on that's related to that particular chapter. And there's a QR code that you can scan and get more coaching from my husband and I. But what couples don't realize, if they read and do the putting it into practice section of the book, they are working on their very own unique marriage game plan. So we're walking them through different things to get strategies for different areas of their relationship that they can refer back to as needed and adjust as needed as life happens.
Yeah.
So it's an ongoing building of your game plan, adjusting, evaluating, reevaluating things.
Yeah, I love that. I think too, having something concrete where you're actually doing it together or writing it out together is really helpful, because, and we've experienced it, where you kind of have this, you know, you go in thinking, I have these great expectations or I have these great intentions. And then when they don't happen, it can almost feel like, well, you didn't hold up your end of the bargain.
Right.
So do I have to hold up my end of the bargain? You know, and it can kind of get into that too. Because I've heard from people that say, oh, you know, this is how I thought it was going to be. And then he didn't do X, Y, Z. So then I'm not going to do X, Y, Z. And it's like, that's not helpful.
No.
Because to me, the goal is to be one team. Like if you're failing, I'm failing, and vice versa.
Absolutely.
What do you think about that?
Absolutely. You're absolutely right, because that's the whole point. Is you feel like you can be separate in a marriage, but whatever one does, it affects the other. So if you win together, then your relationship wins, your family wins. If you lose, your relationship, if one of us loses, the relationship loses, the family loses. So it's no separating. It is a oneness. It is a team. And each person has to be willing to give not 50%, because 50% is that I'm not getting what I want. I'm going to take my marbles and go somewhere else, right?
Yeah.
But if you're giving 100% and 100%, that means I'm all in. No matter what comes up, no matter what twists and turns life brings our way, we will turn towards each other and we're going to figure this out together, because we're going to win. Because most teams don't come together expecting to lose. You come together because you want to win. And to win, if I want to use football analogies, it takes every person bringing their best A game to the team, their strengths, and helping their marriage team win and get to the next level. So a team can't be successful if there are people on there that says, he didn't throw it right, so I'm not gonna catch it next time because he, you know what I'm saying? How can you win?
Yeah.
You have to say, no, I'm all in. I believe in us.
Yeah.
I'm gonna bring it no matter what circumstance. It might look like we're losing, but this is a long game. We got more innings to go. We can turn this around.
Yeah.
You know?
I like that analogy. It's actually, I think, for me, I mean, I'm guilty of it. Like ego kind of comes up where it's like almost that you're hurt or your ego comes where it's like, okay, well, if you didn't hold up, well, or you spoke to me in this, tone that I don't like, and I'm going to do it back sort of a thing. But when you think about it from that perspective of like, if you were on a team, if your teammate isn't doing what they're supposed to do or having an off day, you don't get to be like, well, then I'm going to have an off day too, just because So I like that analogy. I did hear one time, somebody said, I forgot who it was. I wish I could quote. Oh, do you follow Ali Stuckey? Ali B. Stuckey? She's a Christian.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I think it was her who said, or maybe a guest that she had said, it's really easy to give up when anything is rooted in happiness. And because your happiness is so fleeting. It changes every single day. And it's, it comes and goes. Different things make you happy. You weren't the same person you were a year ago.
Exactly.
But it's really hard to give up on something that you set out with the intention that its sole purpose is to glorify God. And that has always stuck with me too, because you can't, I mean, if you say, I'm going to be in this marriage, I'm going to stick with it to glorify God, if that's like your ultimate purpose.
Right.
It's kind of hard. It's harder to give up on that. It's like, if that's kind of like what you're setting out every day. But even that's hard to do because there's just like the human element to it comes in where you're like, I want to fight. I mean, me, like I'm sassy. So if something is it's like, okay, I want to match you. Where I'm having to learn even this far into my marriage, I'm like, it doesn't help you. It doesn't help me. It doesn't help the kids. No. Like, how can I show up better? Even when you are having or vice versa. Like if I'm having a moment where I'm not showing up as my best self or showing up in a way that is glorifying God, what I need in that moment is for you to step up and to show grace and to be the partner, but I don't think, I think a lot of times that's not what happens. Right. I think it's a lot of like butting heads.
Absolutely. It is a lot of butting heads because a lot of times, because we're different. Like God created each one of us very unique and diverse, and he's a God of diversity and creativity and uniqueness. Like each one of us is significant in our own God-given right? God, I say there's no two snowflakes the same. There's no two fingerprints the same. Your uniqueness is God-given. And so the great mystery of marriage, because neither one of you are wrong for being created unique in God's image and whatever he created you to be. But the mystery of marriage is, how do you take these two God-designed individuals, and now you got to, God's calling us to become one, right? And figuring out how do we become one. And it's not about forcing the other person to come over to your side and do things exactly the way you do them, and vice versa, you pulling them to their way. It takes an openness to allow yourself to be influenced by each other. So it's no more Tondra's way or George's way. Now we've got to come up with our way that brings all of our unique differences and have them operating as a well-oiled machine. Yeah. And that's a lifelong process.
And like pulling both of those together and then figuring out how to make it harmonious and also how to make it harmonious through all of life's changes too. And I think that's another misconception, at least that I see, where it's not just going to be like, oh, we figured it out this one time. We figured it out. Okay, now life throws something else at us. Now life throws something else at us. And it's like figuring out how to be harmonious and not as easy. I mean, I don't think it's the easy route, but the easy route is like, I'm out, I'm done, which actually I think in the long run, people aren't usually happy with that decision. You know what I mean? Like how often I see so often with people divorce because times got tough. And then it's always like, deep down, I think you really wish you didn't do that, I wish, I don't know.
Yeah.
I see that a lot, or it's very common now to like, oh, we got, for the kids or whatever. We stayed together for the kids, but it's like, can you stay together for the two of you? And I don't know. I think there's just so much.
Well, you're absolutely right. We are evolving and we are being shaped and changed through our circumstances. And the challenge for couples is not to let yourself evolve individually, because then you're growing apart as you're changing. And this is why down the line, 30, 40, I was just seeing Oprah was mentioning something about gray divorce, right? Where couples have been married 40 years and they're in their 50s and they're getting divorced. There's an increase in that. And my take is, I'm wondering if there was some evolving to get each person evolving separately.
Yeah.
And then you look at each other and you're just like, who are you? You're not
You're
the person I
stranger,
married.
yeah.
And so just to adjust the expectation, no, you are supposed to grow and change in your marriage, So yeah, you're not going to be the same. Like, I got married at 23 years old. I'm not the same woman I am at this ripe, mature age that I am right now. And neither is my husband. But what we've tried to do is evolve together. So we are doing life together and so we know each other at being 50 years married. We're still knowing each other in that season.
I'm curious if you have any tips on that, because I'm sure this is quite common, and I just recently experienced it where it was really hard for me, and I don't know, maybe it was just because I felt off, but when I lost my job, the girl, because I think when we started dating, I was a girl. The girl that I was when my husband started dating me, and then obviously, and then the woman he married was like this corporate powerhouse. I'm making all this money and I'm going to all these meetings. And now the woman that I am, so I lost my job and I felt like I'm still the same person, but I'm totally shifting in that I don't want to kind of be that like firm, strong, hard, masculine kind of like that, because now I'm raising these 3 babies. And so now I feel different. I feel softer. I feel kinder. I feel more patient. And I'm just a different individual.
Yeah.
And so that was really hard, I think, for us too, because it was like, how do I don't know, maybe like the way that I even speak to you, I want it to be different. Or maybe the way that you speak to me. And I actually had this conversation with him where he was, we were used to being like very stern and very straightforward. And I had a conversation. I said, I don't want to speak to each other like that anymore. I just don't feel that way anymore. Yeah. And maybe it was the birth of our daughter. I just feel softer. I feel like I want to show up softer and I want to show up kinder. And I need you kind of to do the same. But even that was a really challenging conversation to have. Yeah. So do you have any tips or things that you would recommend in those transitions where it's like you want to make a shift, or you even notice in yourself, I'm making a shift, I'm growing in a certain way, and I need you to kind of come along with me? I don't know if that's the right term, but does that make sense?
Yes, it makes total sense. And I think that was courageous of you to have that conversation. And it's having conversations like that with your husband, open to hearing and wanting to learn you in this season. The only way he can learn you if you share, if you're vulnerable enough to share what you're needing in that season, because what we need in each season is going to change based off the circumstances. But we can't expect our spouse to guess what our needs are. But because you sharing it and his openness to hear that and want to change and adjust and meet those needs, that's what it looks like, is having those tough, vulnerable conversations. And those are scary and they're hard to have. Because you feel most vulnerable when you don't really know yourself anymore.
Yeah. Because I'm like, I don't even know how to explain this to you. I just don't want to be that anymore that I've been. Or, I mean, it was God. I know God. Not that God fired me, but I feel like God was like, you're done working and now you're going to raise babies. And I'm like, okay, God, great.
Yes.
But it's, I do think it's also challenging when I sometimes can't even put into words what I need or what I'm feeling. And then I'm like also trying to explain or communicate that in the right way to my spouse. I think those kind of ebbs and flows are really challenging.
It is. And it's ongoing that you have to be that way. My husband and I just had a very similar conversation. We have adult children, right? We've been married for 30 years, and my body's going through changes. I mean, I know pregnancy, you go through changes and all of that. And, but menopause, I'll just go ahead and put it out there. I'm at home with your audience.
Yep. Love it.
So my body's going through changes. It brings up an insecurity because the person, the Tondra I used to know, I need something different from him. And instead of me having the conversation, I was just reacting out of just the insecurity or the frustration of feeling out of control of these changes that I'm going through. And it was such a helpful conversation for me to be able to process. I didn't have the answers. I didn't even know that's what was bothering me. But having that conversation with my husband he's like, you're different, like your responses, like you're a little more short or irritable or I that's not you. What I'm feeling from you is not you. And him asking me those questions and me being willing to process that out loud, we were able to come up with a new strategy. And I'm needing softness too in this season. Which is very scary because I'm always like to be strong. Everybody lean on me.
Yes.
I'm very chill, very easygoing, but going through this phase that I'm not in control of is really bringing out of, I actually need someone to care for me, to be more, I don't want to say I'm not needy because I feel like sometimes we could just have beliefs about certain words and needing help, which keeps us from being humble enough to have these vulnerable conversations. It's like, I know it was just so hard for me. He was like, tell me what you need. And I was like, I don't need you to do anything. And come to find out, I actually do. I do need a little more affirmation in this season because I'm feeling insecure.
Yeah. I think you're right about the words too, because I used to, the word sensitive has somehow become a negative thing. And so at first he's like, you're being sensitive. I'm like, no, I'm not. And then I'm like, no, you're right. I am. I am being sensitive and I need a softer something. I don't know.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's, I think there are negative kind of like connotations to certain words that this shouldn't be there. And we just need to talk it out. I'm curious what your thoughts are. Thank God for my husband. He is like, okay, like, so you're having a lot of hormones or whatever, like he's trying to understand. But to somebody, and maybe this is obviously, I think everybody probably needs a marriage game plan. But to a couple or to somebody, I mean, it could be a husband or a wife. I'm speaking from a wife's perspective, obviously. But if a wife, goes and does this approach and says, okay, I need to talk about X, Y, Z. And what if it's not met with that type of responsiveness? And what if it's not met with, you have what are your thoughts on that?
My thoughts, this is why we need, the marriage game plan is to be proactive and not reactive to situations. So, and it's never too late to get your marriage game plan because in working on your marriage game plan, those are things that you would already have decided. How do we want to tackle tough conversations? How do we, what do both roles need to play out so that we have successful, tough conversations? Like, so I feel like it's more or less working in getting a game plan on how we want to have tough conversations. In chapter 9, that's the tips for tackling tough conversations of our book. And one of the tips is that, hey, we want to plan that tough conversation, meaning, okay, hey, I've got something that I need to talk to you about, and it's going to be a tough conversation, or it's going to be a scary conversation for me. And then you work together on planning the right time. And then you have what do we need in that moment? I always say, like, if my husband brings something to me, I have to, and he says it's going to be a tough conversation, I have to be ready. I say, put my big girl pants on and be able to hear this tough thing that he wants to talk to me about, because your spouse wants to win. You want to have a winning team. They're not trying to harm you. So we need to come in ready to give what we need to give in that moment. So if as a woman, as a wife, if we're bringing something, hey, I have something, I'm feeling very vulnerable. This is scary for me. This is out of my norm, but I'm going to need a soft place to land.
Which is so smart, because you know what usually happens? I'm speaking personal experience. Those things come up in the moment when it's heated. And I'm like, I don't have capacity to talk about this right now. I've been with the kids all day. You don't have capacity to talk about it because you've been at work all day. We're not going to come with our best foot forward. So even having that, like a plan of attack for that is really important. And then it just comes almost like with your guard down.
Yeah.
Because I think when it comes up in the moment, immediately, I mean, I go into defense mode. Well, like, what do you mean? And I just been taking care of your kids all day. And and then it's like, well, this isn't productive.
Right.
So the marriage game plan, the book itself, I was going to ask this, good for people who are about to get married, good for people who've been married for 30 years or anywhere in between. It's like, really, there's no right time to create the game plan, is what you would say?
Absolutely right. Like, there is no wrong time to get your game plan. I love when seriously dating or engaged or newly married couples go through it, because of my journey, learning and working on a game plan through all the hurts and bumps and bruises that we had to have along the way. The sooner you can have it and get that foundation, it just puts you on the same page, heading in the same direction, and you have your strategy moving forward. And then I say it's never too late to get a game plan, because if what you're doing right now is not working, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing and expecting a different result. So it's never too late to get on the same page and heading in the same direction. We assume we're heading in the same direction a lot of times, but once you start really peeling back the layers, you realize, oh, I made some assumptions that you were okay with this or that you like this or whatever. So yeah.
Yeah, the assumptions is interesting too, because and maybe even, I mean, I'm excited to do this with my husband, and we've been together for so long, but I do think the assumptions are big, especially, well, I would assume when you've been together for so long, you kind of assume like, I know what you're thinking about, or I know how you're going to respond to this, or I know what you think about finances, or I know what you think about what have you. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, something comes up and it's like, wait a minute, I was putting you in a different category than maybe what I should have been putting you in or something, So I actually think that is super helpful, because we run into that all the time. My husband would be like, oh, I thought you liked XYZ. I'm like, why would you think that I like, where did that come from? Like, oh, 10 years ago, you told me this. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So also I think that's interesting too, because you don't know what your spouse has been holding on to about you, or some things that you said or have done. And, so talk to me also about a vision statement or a mission statement. What do you, vision statement?
Yeah.
Okay.
The vision statement is very key, because it starts with the end game. Like, where do you want to go? Where do you want to be? What do you want your marriage or your family relationships to look like down the road, 50, 60 years down the road? That's important, because then if we start with the end game, now we can make decisions and actions that align with taking us to that end game. So having a vision of where we're going, and the Bible says the people perish without a vision, right? So it's also crucial for couples to have a vision, the end game picture, and then you work backwards from there. Like, everything that we're doing, all the decisions that we're making, that's our compass.
Yeah.
Does this take us to where we're trying to
that
go?
Ultimate goal. And do you feel like the vision statement, actually, first let me ask this. What's like an example of a vision statement? Is this just like our our family, our legacy? Is this a financial vision statement? Are there multiple vision statements? Like, what would be an example of a vision statement?
A vision statement is the bigger picture. You can do all the other, like the mission statement is the objectives that you want to do to get to your vision. But the vision is that holistic picture. Like, what do we want our kids to take away from our marriage? What do we want the community around us to know about us?
Okay.
How do we want for our marriage to look? Like, laughter and having fun is a big part of George and I's vision statement. Like, we want to enjoy each other. We want to enjoy our life. We want our kids to be like, oh, marriage is fun. I want to do that.
Yes.
And so is having that bigger picture of what do you want people to take away? Like, one thing somebody was saying is like, oh, on your tombstone, if you were to write your marriage tombstone, what would you want those words to say? What do you want somebody to be able to write on that tombstone head about your marriage? So those are the bigger pictures.
And so that to me isn't really that doesn't really change, right? Like, your vision statement is kind of your vision statement. It's not like, oh, in 10 years we kind of evaluate the vision statement. A vision statement is kind of more of like what's foundationally core to both of us.
Yeah. And it can adjust too. You can add to it. I'm pretty sure you wouldn't probably take away anything, but you probably want to add to something, as you're learning things. Like, I know another big thing where people are learning, we want to make sure that we consider the generations, which is like the legacy, and making sure that the core things are there, but you can always add other things. But the core things that you both want, the values, the purposes, the plans, is what you want to be known for. So it is that core thing that is that foundation. But I would think if it's a core thing right now, I think down the road it's going to be a core thing. Yeah. I don't think your core values are going to
really
change.
That much. Yeah, no, that makes sense. And the book is written from a biblical perspective. So talk to me about that, the 4 main purposes that God had in creating marriage, and kind of how those are incorporated into the book.
Yes. And this is written from a biblical perspective, but couples of all, faiths can glean from this. But we have a biblical worldview of marriage, so we share that biblical worldview of marriage, but it's very practical, and there's activities that all couples can utilize to help them get a game plan for their marriage. But chapter 2 in our book talks about the 4 purposes of marriage, because we believe that God created marriage with purposes. He's the creator of marriage, and we have to go back to him to figure out, well, what did he have in mind? What are we supposed to get out of this? How is this supposed to impact us and grow us? What are we supposed to produce? It's not just about us solely being happy and living, it's just not about our self. It's not about just our happiness, but what else is it that God has a purpose for marriage? It's kind of like George and I switched to iPhones, and we were Android users the whole time since smartphones have been around. And the thing about it, there's a learning curve with this iPhone, because it's so different than the Samsung version of the smartphone. And we have to figure out, like, what did the creator have in mind of this iPhone? Because we're watching videos and we're trying to learn, because we want to get the most out of the optimal experience we can have out of the iPhone. The same with our marriage. Like, we want to have God's plans for our marriage and purposes for our marriage. And so those 4 purposes that we believe God created marriage for is oneness and solidarity, which is what we talked about earlier. Is like 2 different people, but you got to figure out how to become one. And then 2, that companionship, meaning we're supposed to help fill each other's gaps, make each other a better version of, well, not just a better version, but we're to reflect God, have the fruits of God's spirit in our marriage. And so through marriage, we help each other live out that purpose in our marriage, right? And then there's, let's see, the 4th one is to reflect God's image, which is to mirror who God is, his character and nature. We believe that God created marriage to created family to be the vehicle that he wanted to pass his legacy and his nature from generation to generation. And so that's one of his plans for marriage, is our kids are supposed to understand God's nature and his character. The community is supposed to understand God's nature and his character through how we love each other, how we forgive each other, how we treat each other. And so in marriage, we know that as Christians, like, oh, we're trying to like, show that to everybody out there. But marriage is one of those mainstays as well. People are looking at our marriages as well to see if we know anything about loving God or, loving each other.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Well, and it's easy to say, but I think it's easy to say, of course, these things to be true, but then actually putting them into practice. So having a framework, and actually even just seeing those, like these kind of 4 categories written out where it's like, okay, this is actually the intention. I actually say this with a lot of stuff. I was raised Christian. My grandfather who raised me was a pastor. So I feel like I always have just foundational biblical principles. It's like always just in the back of my head. And anything that I'm ever confused on, or it could be anything from like a secular perspective, it could be politics, it could be whatever. But I think marriage is one of those things where it's like we kind of are given like this baseline framework, and if we just read the word, what does it say, and kind of leaning back on that. But as much as we know that, I think having kind of like, it's just like, it feels like a cheat sheet for it, where it's like, here's the 4 principles that are kind of foundational to faith and how a marriage should be, and then here's how we can kind of go and execute on them.
Absolutely. And because we can misuse something if we don't know what it was designed to do, or we can start creating our own way because we don't know what it was designed to do. So we definitely have to have that framework.
Talk to me about, and I love this, athletes need rest and recovery, obvious, but not so obvious when you think about it in the terms of a relationship. And so why is it necessary for couples, and what does that mean, and how do people do that?
So athletes, one of the things I've observed is they value rest and recovery because it allows them to operate at their peak performance. So, and I feel like in our world today, rest and recovery feels wrong, right?
Like frowned upon, frowned lazy upon. Or something. Yeah,
we're supposed to be super Christian, super mom, super everything, and but when you look at these elite athletes, and they filter in rest and recovery as a part of their success plan or their success program. For them to be able to give their optimal peak performance. I feel like that relates to couples because there's so much stress, so much pressure on couples that's always pulling on them. And we have to carve out time to make sure that we are keeping the main thing, which is making sure we're taking care of each other and our family. We like to say winning the home game because I feel like we are bent towards winning the away game, in our careers, in our hobbies, our extracurricular. Like we are intentional about making sure we are spending time doing everything we can to be successful outside the home, and slowing the calendar down enough to invest inside the home is what rest and recovery looks like for couples. Meaning, Sabbath, God all himself modeled, hey, it's okay to rest and recover, so that you have more capacity to go out there and win the away game. But rest and recovery allows us to have more capacity to love our family, spend time together, and invest in our relationship, invest in our children. So valuing rest and recovery is a part of a successful game plan. It's not just okay to give it all to the away game, but be intentional about slowing things down so you can have dinner together sometimes as a family. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Go away for the weekend. For couples to go away without the kids away for the weekend. Give yourself permission, but know that it's for the winning of the home game and not feel guilty. I know as moms, sometimes we can feel guilty that we can't do it all, or if we're not spending time with our kids, we can battle with that guilt, but you have to look at it. No, this is me, so I can be a better mom. I'm giving myself time to have a higher capacity to enjoy my kids and for them to enjoy me, you know.
Yeah. As I'm hearing you talk, I wasn't a football fan previously, but I love these analogies. I'm like, maybe I'm going to be I love that home game, the away game. I just distracted my own self from my last thought that I was going to say to you. Oh, I remember what I was going to say. I had this mental pivot a couple weeks ago where my kids are 3, 2, and 5 months. So they rely heavily on me. I do everything for them now. But I had this thought where I'm like, you know what? I know that I'm called to put my husband for my kids. But I'm absolutely not doing that. I'm just not. I wake up and I go straight to those kids. It's straight to the kids. It's straight to what do the kids need. It's straight to nursing. It's straight to like whatever that the kids need. And so I had this epiphany a couple weeks ago where I was like, you know what? I'm just going to try to greet my husband. Even like a little thing. I'm just going to greet my husband before I greet my kids. Or I'm going to serve my husband's breakfast before I serve my kids. Because I was thinking about it. I'm like, I know how this kind of order, how we're called, you know. But do I do it? No way. And it's just such a good, I feel like this is just going to be such a good reminder for no matter where you're at in your relationship, like we said, whether it's, well, I mean, I know unfortunately, some couples who are like so down in the depths and can't figure out how to get back on track and using this almost as like a reset and a resetting. Or for those newer couples who are wanting to be proactive versus reactive, because it is really, really hard to be reactive. And it happens, but I think this in business and what, you know, in most things in life, having a proactive plan and then figuring out and adjusting as needed is so much more fruitful and successful than reacting to every little thing in the moment. And I talk about this a lot on the podcast too. It's like, if you're reactive to everything, you're gonna burn out. It just feels exhausting. It feels like too much, too heavy, it's just like, I can't, like, I just need to kind of like throw in the towel, excuse me, versus being proactive. And I do think what's not spoken about enough, and obviously in my space it's motherhood. You know, we talk about the kids and we talk about this, but I don't think it's spoken enough and my whole thing is making motherhood positive again. Because when I had my first son, I was looking on, you know, I'm going online trying to find other moms that I related to. I'm like, I don't really relate to any of you because everything is so negative. Everything is so like chaotic. And I just don't feel that way about having kids. So anyways, long story short, I don't think enough emphasis is put on the marriage and taking the breaks in marriage and kind of having these resets in marriage, and also thinking about it as a way that it actually benefits our children too. Because if you have two really disconnected parents, and I see it, like if my husband and I are just off and kind of like we're zigging and zagging, my kids start acting up. I see it and I feel it. And I mean, he and I have to say to each other, like, okay, you and I have to reset because they're starting to act crazy. Right. And they feel that. And so I think this is just going to be so helpful for so many people. And having it be, it's like workbook style, right? So like even having that where it's like, okay, we can do this together and then go out and implement and execute on a game plan. I think it's going to be, to me, it sounds like something that's going to be so good for the whole family.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's important because again, our kids are learning how to treat their spouse. They're learning how to love their spouse. They're learning, do they even want to be married? You know what I'm saying? Like, or that's the thing. It's like my heart is to help this next generation reimagine what marriage can be, because I feel like, you know, with Hollywood and and all these negative views of marriage and, like you say, motherhood and having children, it's like we have to start aligning it the way God intended so that it can bring the fruit that it was intended to bring.
Yeah.
You know, and passing that from generation to generation. I want my kids to say, I want a marriage like my parents. I want that. Like, I want to be loved like that. I want to have fun like that. I can't wait to be married and to have a compass for looking for a partner to say, I want my husband to treat me like this, like my dad loves my mom, or vice versa. I want a woman to love me the way my mom loves my dad. And that's what this goal is we want to duplicate this in our world so that we can reflect God's glory and his goodness through marriage. We believe that marriage is a natural reflection of our heavenly relationship with God. This is a natural relationship that mimics our relationship with God. This is a gift, but for some reason in our world, it's not viewed as a gift.
You just let this, it's burden.
It's a burden.
This heavy thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that has so much to do with, I say this actually a lot, but I think a good marriage foundation would solve so many problems in our world today. Just if we focused on our home and having a husband and a wife who were on the same page and were in it to win it and weren't just ready to give up or jump to the next thing or, you know, putting their egos in front of the goal, and raising kids together, I feel like just so many issues in the world would be resolved in the home, just between a husband and a wife being. I have a question for you. Yeah. I'm going a little bit off.
Yeah.
But because you're I mean, you have a background in mental health. From a husband and wife perspective, where do you think so like my husband was raised one way, right? With a certain set of parents, and I was raised a certain type of way, totally opposite. And where do you think that kind of comes into the mix? And I mean, I'm sure you see it where it's like, okay, you kind of had to I'm assuming you were raised this way, but you kind of got to break out of that a little bit. And I was raised this way and I had to break out of that a little bit in order for us to come and make it work. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. That's a big part of it. Like, that's why in the beginning, George and I struggled so much. We just came from two different backgrounds and they were completely opposite. Not only is our personalities different, our background, we were opposite personalities, opposite backgrounds in how we grew up. And you do have to, because sometimes people think, oh, the past is the past. It doesn't affect my present or my future. And my challenge is the past is only the past if you have processed it and you have dealt with it and you've grown from it and you are separated from it because you understand it. You've rewritten the narrative. You've processed the impact that it's had on you. It's so empowering to have that understanding and for your spouse to have that understanding. And then we get a strategy of what we want to take from our upbringing, what we want to change about it is the starting place of building your life together. It's not forget the past. It has nothing to do. No, the past is a significant part until you have decided how you want to move forward.
Yeah. It largely shapes, it largely shapes us for sure. And obviously speaking from my experience, and I think maybe more so me than him because he comes from a place where it's like nobody gets divorced. We're in it. We stick with it. And I feel like that has its own pros and cons, if you will, because I think there's like a little bit of it where it's like we just don't get divorced, but almost as yes, great, but does it make you a little bit complacent? Like you still got to work, you still got to put the work in.
Exactly.
And then I come from a place where everyone gets divorced, and so I'm like so hyper fixated on making that not happen, but I know that it's still a little bit that you know what I mean. And so I was just curious as we're talking to this, like that came to my mind too of thinking about that as you're creating this plan, because I know like. When my husband and I sit down, those things are going to come up inevitably, right? Like I feel like they just kind of have to. And you think like I've left that in the past and that was how I was raised, but I think it intrinsically comes into how you handle things or even conversations that could be tough. Like for me, it is really hard to admit defeat or admit that I need help or admit, I need a softer approach or whatever, because I was so used to from childhood on to like, I'm strong and I got this and I can make it through anything and whatever. So I don't know. I feel like it just came to my head.
It's so true. And we've dedicated a chapter to this. It's facing and overcoming your opponents. And one of those opponents is your past.
Your past, yeah.
And understanding that and what you're bringing with it. And we like to say you're marrying more than what's in front of you. And you've got to understand each person. I don't care if you came from the perfect scenario. We're coming to this relationship with baggage because that brings expectations, assumptions, views, and you have to unpack that and know what you're dealing with and get a strategy on how we want to move forward with all that.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Okay, I'm glad I asked.
yeah.
Okay, last question for you. What advice in the marriage game plan do you think that might surprise readers if we haven't already touched on it?
Yeah. We've
gone through a lot of stuff, I know.
We've gone through a lot of stuff. I feel like it's mostly one surprise, again, is that you're working and building your marriage game plan. You're not just reading it. It's very interactive. If you go through the material, you will have your own unique marriage game plan. But also, I think what's surprising is people will realize, like, light bulbs and insights will come on and they will realize, oh my gosh, like, okay, this is giving us a clarity and it's easier than we thought. So I think those are some of the surprises. And not only that, like, we're very transparent about our struggles. My neighbor read the book and they were like, oh my goodness, you guys really exposed yourselves in the book. And I was like, oh, I wasn't feeling exposed until you said that.
Now that you said it, okay.
But it is for, like, when we were struggling just as Christians, we just felt like we were the only ones. And we feel like as Christians, we feel like, oh, you got God, shouldn't have any problems.
Yeah.
And so we wrote this book just to be transparent that, hey, it's okay. We're all in this together. We're trying to figure this out. This is a lifelong process.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
so just our transparency of the things that we've learned and the things you shouldn't do and how we overcame those things are also some surprises in the book.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited. I'm really excited to try it out. Okay, where can people buy the book? I mean, I'm going to put up a link for it.
Oh, great.
An Amazon link, obviously, for everyone to check out. But where is it available right now?
Right now, it's on Amazon and anywhere you get your books from.
Okay.
So, yes, it's widely available to any online books or brick and mortar bookstore that you like to go to and visit.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And then where can people find you or reach you?
Yes, please. So our website is journeyforlifenow.org and our social media is at journeyforlifenow. And we also have a podcast called The Marriage Game Plan. It's new. We only have 3 episodes up.
Oh my gosh, amazing. Great. I love it. Congratulations.
So thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yes. And so you can get that anywhere you listen to your podcast.
Perfect. And we'll put all of that up in the show notes as well. Thank you so much for being here today. This was amazing. I know this is going to help so many people. So go check it out. I think it's going to be so helpful.
Thank you so much. Yes, it was a great conversation.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here today.
Yeah.
Good.
Yay.
Great. How do you feel?
You are so natural. I didn't even know we had began. It just kind of rolled right into.
Oh, thank you.
So.
Yeah. You know what? I think it. Some people have told me that they get nervous. Oh, well, I don't get nervous, but
I can see, like, you make people feel comfortable because you're not nervous and you're so outgoing and just a great conversationalist. So it just felt like we were sitting in the living room and just
That's
chatting.
what I was hoping for. This is really incredible what you've made. I'm excited. I think this is going to help so many people.
Thank you. And thank you for letting me share that with your audience and your listeners. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I'm so happy. When I found out that you were an Orange County local, I was like, what?
I know. And I was like, I love it when you can meet people in person. I just feel I'm such a people person.
Yeah, me too. I know. And people will say, "Oh, can we do a virtual pod?" I'm like, ugh, I don't feel it as much. Like, I want you to be here. I want to. Yeah,
I know. It's so special when you can be in person.
Yeah.
But I think virtual. This next generation they're very comfortable with everything being online.
No, but it's like you get like an 80% feel. I don't know. I think
I'm with you on that.
Yeah.
Just as a therapist, I'm like, there's so much communication that goes on that's left out if you can only hear the
verbal,
audio.
Right?
Yeah,
yes. I know. I could have gone there's so many things I want to ask you, but we're coming up on time.
Okay. Well,
thank you so much. I appreciate it.